What is up, everybody? This is your guy Kalai, and welcome back to Budget Buys. And today I'm going to be digging into my Bugha gaming gear review backlog because I've kind of been sitting on this review as well as one other for a little bit longer than I originally intended. And on the menu for today is the updated Bugha LED gaming headset stand, which of course is meant to be a replacement for the original Bugha LED gaming headset stand. And there are a few major differences between these two products, which I think you already know if you've read the subtitle on the box of the new one. Because while this headset stand comes with 4 USB ports, this one comes with a wireless charging base powered by USB. And that's actually part of the reason why I've been putting this video off for so long, because I don't actually have a device that has wireless charging capabilities. And I didn't really want to go out of my way to pick one up, so instead I've been waiting on the delivery of this little wireless charging adapter, so I can demonstrate it to you later. But before that, let's get this out of the box. Inside the box, you receive the wireless charging base powered by USB, the manual, as well as the arm that holds your headset. Now, before I dig too deep into this headset stand, I just want to go ahead and show you how it's assembled. And fortunately, it's very simple. All you need to do is take the pegs at the base of the arm that holds your headset, line everything up like so, which I'll admit, because this is so flexible, it can be a little tricky, especially through a camera viewfinder, and then just press down. And let's look at that from a different angle, shall we? Now let's compare that to the original Bugha headset stand. Side note, this thing is kind of dusty because it's the main headset stand that I still use. And I don't exactly dust all that much, even though I really should. Now, what you do here is bring in the arm that you need to hold the headset, find the little arrow, I don't know if it will show up on camera, that little arrow, line it up with the unlocked position, and give it a twist. Once again, let's look at that from a different angle. And with that demo out of the way, let's go back to just the bases for a bit, because there are a few differences here that I want to touch on. With the first probably being the most obvious, and that's the fact that, like I said previously, the original headset stand has 4 USB 2.0 ports on the front, whereas the newer headset stand has 0 USB ports, but wireless charging capabilities. And demonstrating that from this angle is a whole heck of a lot easier if I don't have the arm attached. And for this demo, I'm gonna have to set things up kind of strangely due to how just kind of jury-rigged this whole setup is gonna have to be, due to the fact that I don't have a wireless charging phone, and I'm gonna be using my stunt device, which is just a little burner phone that I picked up for dirt cheap and never actually activated, as well as this little wireless charging adapter. Because of how funky this thing is and the way it's constructed, I could not get one of the charging adapters that I could stick to the back due to the fact that the USB port is effectively backwards and off center, but this will work. I've done a bit of testing off camera. First, I need to make sure the wireless charging receiver coil picture is what's actually making contact here. Also, I have to make sure it's in this kind of configuration because that's the easiest way I've gotten it to charge. And now I just need to turn on my battery pack that I have this plugged into. For transparency's sake, as you can see, it is currently not charging, but if I hit this button over here, give it a moment, it turns on and it says that it is charging. And as for the actual charging specs, this charger takes in 5 volts 2 amps or 10 watts and outputs 5 volts 1 amp or 5 watts. So it's not exactly heavy duty, but It's also kind of understandable because they had to make this relatively cheaply, and it only uses a USB 2.0 cable. The next difference between these two headphone stands is the fact that while the original uses a 1.2 meter cable, the new one uses a 1.5 meter cable. That's an additional 0.3 meters or approximately 1 foot of cable. Also, this one is a bit thicker than this one, and it even has a much sleeker USB connector. You're going to have a much easier time finding something to plug that into versus this one. Though, admittedly, it's not that hard to find a port with enough room. The next big difference is the LEDs. Let me go ahead and switch camera angles and show you what I'm talking about here. As you can see, the LEDs on the original headset stand are ridiculously bright, especially when compared to the newer headset stand. And if I'm not mistaken, a lot of people complained about that in the comments section of my review of the original headset stand, and I'm gonna have to agree with them. Personally, I do still use this headset stand as my main, but I never plug in the USB cable. I just keep it powered off. It still makes a decent stand for the money. On the flip side, the LEDs on the newer stand are a lot more understated, and I don't really see the need to leave it powered off, especially if I am going to be using the wireless charging ability on the headset stand, even if I have already established that that's not actually going to be happening anytime soon. And for the final major difference between these two headset stands, it's the arm, because while the original arm is quite rigid and very durable feeling, the same can't really be said with the newer one. As you can see, it is very flexible, even when it's installed in the base. As you can see in this test footage, it flexes quite a bit and can even twist a bit from side to side because of that. But in my opinion, its worst offense is the fact that with relatively little pressure, the arm actually pops out of the base. Though, in its defense, I do think I applied just a little bit more pressure than any of the headsets I own would. However, that is a new kind of issue. I'm used to cheap headphone stands falling over, not so much self-destructing. Now back to the original headset stand, though the connection point at what looks to be a hinge does have a little bit of give to it, it's not that much. Also, thanks to the way it locks into the base, even when I apply a heck of a lot more force to it than I did the newer headphone stand, everything stays together. Also, just to go back for a second to my point for cheap headphone stands falling over, I haven't had any issues with this base, but now that I think about it, the fact that this is more narrow towards the front and has an arm that can rotate a little bit, I could see it rolling, but it wouldn't be as easy as with some of the $5 headphone stands from fivebelow. Two of which I'm hopefully going to be covering in an upcoming video. And there you have the new Bugha LED gaming headset stand with wireless charging base powered by USB, compared to the original Bugha LED gaming headset stand, which is much less of a mouthful to say. And in my opinion, if you have the option, I'd say go with the original, because this thing is constructed a whole heck of a lot better than this one. Though at the same time, I can see why at least a couple of the changes were made, specifically in regard to the features packed into the base. Because while I do love the 4 USB ports built into the original, not everybody shares my experience. I got lucky in that the stand that I personally bought has 4 data ports. At least a couple of the people that I've spoken with have had issues either with it just being data ports or just having decorative ports because something kind of got messed up with either the cable or the internal circuitry, and as such, they don't even get to charge off of them. This base with its wireless charging at least has fewer things to go wrong. Though at the same time, wireless charging is nowhere near as useful as USB charging due to the fact that not every device on the planet has wireless charging yet, especially for those of us who like to buy our tech on the cheap. Also, this one definitely wins when it comes to the LEDs. I still wish the little circle you see on the box here was a button for the LEDs instead of just a random divot, because those things are way too bright. Oh, and one last difference between these two stands that I forgot to mention earlier on in the video is the fact that the original Bugha headset stand comes with one of the Bugha collector's cards, whereas the newer one does not, despite the fact that it is trying to replace one that does. And at this point, I probably should just stop pointing that out due to the fact that that's how it's going to be from now on. But there is an exception to that in my next Bugha backlog review. But before that, I guess I should say whether or not I think this is a decent grab for $10. And sorta? Like I said, if you have the option, definitely get the original. But if you want a larger headset stand that is going to be less likely to topple over and you only have $10 and this one's not available, you could do worse. Even in the same store. Because when I reviewed this headset stand, I did include a little $5 stand that I tried to use for a few days, but I gave up because it fell over all the frickin' time. That isn't to say that Five Below doesn't have a viable $5-ish headset stand. In fact, in my opinion, the best headset stand in the store falls in that price range. That being this little under-desk headphone mount. I absolutely love this thing. Best of all is the fact that it rotates, so if you don't want to have this as an under-desk headset stand, you can actually have this clipped to your desk and just jutting outward. And it even has a little cable clip to keep everything nice and organized. That's a nice bonus. And I bet you didn't expect me to slip a third headset stand review into this video right at the very end. And now that I've done that, I'm gonna go ahead and say, until next time, this is your guy, Cly, signing off.